This video is the second video in the installment of solving systems of equations. This video is dealing with elimination. So in the last one we had substitution. Substitution is best when an equation is already solved for a variable. And what I mean by solved for a variable, it's gonna look like x equals something or y equals something. That's what our last problem was. We had y equals and then y equals. This is now elimination. So elimination is going to be best for when neither of the two variables are solved for. Okay, so we don't have x equals or y equals. In this particular instance, you see that both my x's and y's are on one side of the equation, where my numbers, my constants, are on the other side. So this is the equation that we're going to use for elimination. This is what they're best for. So elimination is what it seems like where we're trying to eliminate a variable. Eliminating a variable can be done by either adding, subtracting, or multiplying. Now those three have entirely different ways of doing them. You need to know all of them, okay? So when we're going to use adding is when variables can be added to 0. So if you look at this instance, okay, and I look at my 8y and my negative 8y there, if I add them, what do I get? I get 0. So this instance is going to be solved by addition. So let's add these two together. 1 minus 2 is negative 1x. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0, so I don't write any y's. Is equal, negative 1 plus 10 is 9. So I have negative 1x equals 9, so x equals negative 9. Again, because this is a system, my answer is going to be an ordered pair. So since x was negative 9, it goes in my x spot. Now, how do I find out my y value? So since x is negative 9, I can plug it into x in the bottom one or x in the top one. It's up to you. There's really no easy way to do this. You just got to pick one. So let's pick the top one. So x is negative 9 minus 8y equals negative 1. So when I add the 9 over, I get negative 8y equals 8. So y equals negative 1. Well, since y is negative 1, it goes in the y value of the coordinate. That is your solution to this particular problem. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, is there a way to check my answer? Yes, there's always a way to check your answer in math. If you truly understand what's going on, you should never get a wrong answer because you can always check your answer. Here's how I do it. Let's take the first equation, x minus 8y equals negative 1. Let's plug our x, negative 9. Let's plug our y, negative 1. If I do the left calculation, it should give me negative 1 on the right side, which is equal to what I got on the left, right? So I get negative 9 minus 8 times negative 1 equals negative 1. Negative 9, this is now plus 8 equals negative 1. Negative 1 equals negative 1. So that works. Well, it has to work in both equations, not just one of them. So let's take the other. Negative 2x plus 8y equals 10. Negative 2 times, we said it was x is negative 9, plus 8 times negative 1 for y equals 10. Let's make sure the left equals the right. This is 18 minus 8 equals 10. 10 equals 10, and that works. Therefore, because this ordered pair works for both equations, this is our right answer. It's the only answer that will work. This example, if you notice, on the last one we did addition. On this particular one we're going to do subtraction. This is when the same thing, but it's when the variable can be subtracted to 0. Okay? So if I look at these, if I look at my x's here, they're both the same. So if I were to add them, that would actually give me 20x. And I don't want 20, I want to get a 0. So how do I do this? Well, I subtract. So 10 minus 10 is now 0. That minus goes for all of the additional signs. So 7 minus 10 is negative 3y. equals negative 10 minus a negative 10, which makes a 0. Okay? Some of you are like, well, what is really going on? So let me back up a little bit here. When I'm subtracting, I'm actually changing the sign to all of the initial terms in the problem. So this becomes a minus, this becomes its opposite, and this becomes its opposite. Now I can technically add them together. Okay, remember addition or subtraction is the opposite, right? So if I'm changing the signs, then now I can add. 10 minus 10 is 0, 7 minus 10 is negative 3y, and then negative 10 plus 10 is 0. So when I divide, I get y is equal to 0. So again, that goes in my ordered pair as y. I'm going to plug it into the top equation. You can very well plug it into the bottom one. It doesn't matter. It's your call. We're all about choices. Choose wisely. 10x plus 7 times 0 equals negative 10. 10x plus 0 equals negative 10. So 10x equals negative 10. So x equals negative 1. That's my x value of my answer. Negative 1, comma, 0. Let's look on this particular problem. If we notice, I cannot add or subtract to get rid of a variable. But that's where the multiplication comes in. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and as you have this choice, again, the last problem we talked about, you get the choice, right? I could either get rid of my x's or I could get rid of my y's. It's up to you. What I like to try to do is use the smaller values or multiply but the smaller numbers, right? So I'm going to multiply this second one here by 2. When I multiply it by 2, I get 20x plus 2y equals negative 22. I'm going to write the first equation right above it. Now my second equation was turned into this one. So we're going to use the second one when I answer my problem. Well, now if I look, negative 20x plus 20x gives me 0, so I'm going to add these together. Negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5y. 27 minus 22 is 5. I divide, y equals negative 1. So my answer, negative 1, is in my y spot. Now how do I solve this? I have 4 equations. One here, one here. This one really is the same as what I had here. And then this one is brand new. You can use either one of them, it doesn't matter. Again, choice, choose. I'm going to choose this one here. I'll even do it in a different color. I'm going to use this one. Why do you think I'm going to use this one? Because my y is just 1. I don't have a coefficient there. So let's rewrite it. I get 10x plus y equals negative 11, which now y we said was a negative 1. You notice I'm using parentheses every time I'm plugging a number in. That just helps me to identify a negative, a positive version, and all that stuff. So 10x minus 1 equals negative 11. 10x equals negative 10. X equals negative 1. There is my answer. Negative 1, comma, negative 1. This system will conclude this video for elimination. Now, if I look at this particular equation, again, I'm going to multiply because the x's can't cancel if I add. The y's can't cancel if I add or subtract. Same thing. So I can't cancel anything just by adding or subtracting. So I'm going to have to multiply. But you'll notice I cannot multiply any one of these variables to get the other variable. So like 3 times nothing will give me 10. 3 times nothing will give me 5. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to multiply both of them so that I can then cancel stuff out. So let's multiply this top one by 5, and let's multiply this bottom one by 3. Because then I'll have 15 here, 15 there, and then I can get rid of stuff. So if I multiply the top one by 5, I get 15x plus 15y equals 15. Well, that's easy. This bottom one, if I multiply, I get negative 30x plus 15y equals negative 30. So now let's solve. If I add these together, my y's don't actually cancel. So I have to subtract them. Remember we said with subtraction, I could change, change, change. Remember we're changing the signs of what they are to their opposite signs. So now I'm going to solve this. 15 plus 30 is 45x. Y's are canceled because they make 0 when I add them. 15 plus 30 is 45. X is 1. Where am I going to plug it into? I have 4 now equations. I have this first one. I have the second one. I have the third one after I multiplied. And I have the fourth one after I multiplied. Guess what? It doesn't matter. Plug it into any one of them. I'm probably going to use the first one. Why? Because x is smaller. It's 3 of them versus negative 10. So let's use the first one. So 3x plus 3y equals 3. 3 times 1, that's what x was, plus 3y equals 3. 3 plus 3y equals 3. 3y equals 0. Y equals 0. This concludes the solving a system of equations using elimination. If you need help with substitution, check out the previous video. If you need help with 3 variable systems, then check out the next one.